Hey everyone, I'm Ryan. Welcome back to my channel. I'm going to try and keep this as civil as possible because I'm not thrilled right now. Because I just had a very stupid realization that I read something about the HEROES Act, which is supposed to be the new round of stimulus checks, I guess, coming out. And I'd seen some video on YouTube saying that essential workers were going to receive compensation essentially for working during the pandemic the whole time. Well, I got it. I was like, oh, that's interesting because I'm one of those people. I was considered essential during the entire pandemic. I didn't get any time off. Nobody get mad at me. Even though some people will, and that's okay. Just hear me out. I didn't get any time off during this. And I made a video way back when this started, before it was even really in full swing, thanking other people who were still working. Because without those people, for me, I had to travel for work. So without those other people working at gas stations, fast food, restaurants, whatever, I couldn't have eaten. Anyways, so I read into this HEROES Act thing a little bit more, and a couple articles I read said that it's not really going anywhere yet. I guess it passed some stuff back in May, but they've just been sitting on it. And the idea was obviously to be the next round of stimulus. Well, I got disheartened because apparently the article I read completely contradicts the video I saw. The video saying that it was going to be upwards of $10,000 to people who were essential workers. The article said that nothing was set, no numbers, no nothing. And the chances were it was going to target people who lost their jobs instead of people who kept them. I don't know if that's true or not. What I do know is true is there should be some compensation for essential workers who had to work the entire time during the pandemic, which is still right now. And I say that because going back to I didn't get to go home. Some people think they had to go home, and that may be true, but you also most likely got to go home, and then you got to collect a bloated unemployment check, which people like me were paying for. And that's great. I'm glad some people got to go home. I'm glad some people got to go and stay safe and be with their families and potentially have less worry. Now, obviously, there's financial issues with that. If you think you had to go home, then that's a different story. If you were someone collecting one of those fat $600 extra unemployment checks, though, and you were making more money on unemployment than you were making at your job to begin with, why wouldn't you have gone home? I almost consider that, that's a little bit lucky that you got to go home and make more money than if you had to stay at work. Now, that being said, I do not think the way this was handled was appropriate. I do not think the state governments should have been allowed to tell anybody that you have to close your business. I think that should have been up to and 100% left up to the local business in question, and then left up to the people in general to decide whether or not they wanted to go out. All the World Health and CDC could have said, these are our recommendations, the social distancing, all the other things we all know is happening. Then left it up to the businesses to decide whether or not they wanted to let people in or not. Then, if local restaurants stayed open, people would have had the choice to utilize them. I'm assuming that they were assuming we were all too stupid to handle that. I'm assuming they thought we would screw that up. And then obviously the pandemic would get worse. And maybe we would have. But Walmarts didn't have to close. McDonald's, these other large chains, large companies didn't have to close. Who had to close? Local small businesses already struggling, to make their monthly checks for their workers. So they had to send their workers home, who then got to collect these unemployment checks, and they had to close their doors. The small business owners were most likely the ones hurt the most by this. Basically, what I'm saying is that I think if another round of stimulus is going to come out, it should target people, or at least be more beneficial to people who can prove they worked the entire time during this. I'm talking first responders, nurses, fast food people working in fast food, people who had to stay at Walmart. Those people were considered essential for a reason, because they kept our economy still moving. Because if we had shut everything down, which there was a lot of talk of, just shut everything down. And I sort of agreed with that. You shouldn't get to pick and choose who gets to stay open when and where. That goes back to my previous point. They should have let the people decide where they can go or where they should go. If you didn't feel comfortable going out to eat, then don't go out to eat. But the government shouldn't have said, people cannot go out to eat. Close all your restaurants down, except for, the big corporations. You guys can stay open. That's insanity. And we let it happen. We let it happen, very simply. So, again, if you know someone who did work during this, you should thank them. They might think it was shitty and it sucked, and it kind of did. I'm still doing it. It kind of sucks, especially when you had to travel for work and you go to the store that's still open because people are still having to go there and work. But you go in there and the shelves are bare of items you need while you travel. That's tough. So just think about that next time you're upset that you got laid off from your job during this. It might have been a little bit more of a blessing in disguise than you realize. So again, I say, like I said in my previous video, thank you anybody who worked during this and is still working during this to keep our economy moving, because that's important. I hope somebody got something out of this. I know it's a little bit angry ranting, and I could keep going, but hopefully I made my point. I doubt that I did, because I don't think I ever do. But thank you everyone for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one.